never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Hello, beautiful people. How are you this very, well, I was going to say fine, but not fine where I am, let me tell you. It's been a very interesting sort of a day. The clouds are back, hardly surprising given the amount of spraying that was happening over us here yesterday in Queensland, southeast region in particular. But what we have is the wind at the moment. I've got trees cracking around me left and right. The bus is rocking. So, yeah, we've got a hell of a lot of wind here at the moment. And a little bit of dust, but I can honestly say that all of that dust that Pete from Pinaroo sent through to us last night, and that's just a little bit of it leaving his property, did manage today to arrive in Sydney, by the look of it. As you can see, everything had a slight tinge of red to it today. So, yeah, some pretty wild pictures coming out of Sydney, particularly this morning. Let's hope it didn't rain down there in the afternoon at all, because, or in the day, because that just turns to mud coming from the sky then. But yes, Victoria, South Australia, if you're wondering where your topsoil's gone, it's probably in and around Sydney Harbour for the most part right about now. So not terribly pleasant, I dare say. However, there were some in Sydney who found it ideal. I guess most of the types who live up around Bondi and Oxford Street, they all popped out to celebrate while the lines kept being drawn in the sky. So pretty fun day all round for people if you like those sort of pursuits, I guess. How do they do that to us? We've been saying now for a long time, you know, that these weather events are man-made, and we've been abused, cajoled, laughed at, belittled by those of us who could call us, you know, tin hat wearing conspiracy theorists. I would ask you to take a photo of this. This is called an Atlant. This is an Atlant site that was set up in South Australia in 2008. It was set up for a test in 2008 to see whether or not they could influence rain. They were able to. Another test was conducted in central Queensland a few years later, and in fact is still being conducted. That Atlant system is currently, or has been used in central Queensland, and is being used in other parts of Australia as we speak. This, in part, could be some of what we see in our weather maps when we see those weird anomalies come up. Nobody at this point in time has been able to actively or prove that is the case, but these things, if they had one in 2008, you can guarantee they'd have 150 of them now, and they can put them wherever they want and influence the weather however they like. There is an awful lot of whistleblower stuff coming out too about climate change and weather modification, and of course nothing new about weather modification. It's been going on since the 60s, which is no news, particularly if you happen to be in Vietnam during the mid and late 60s. There is some good news for those of us who are seeking justice. Now, justice isn't going to come to Australia real soon, I don't think, but there are signs of it returning to the US. Do you remember Fani Willis? Now, Fani was the Georgia State Attorney General who decided to go after Trump and about 20 other people for claiming that the 2020 election had been rigged. And they went after Trump, particularly for trying to say it was rigged and prove all that, yada, 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 yada. Wow! It turns out that the governor in Georgia has decided that new legislation needs to be introduced, and that legislation will not be good news to Fani and co. Now, Fani began prosecuting the case against the president, and she employed a very special prosecutor to do it, a guy called Nathan Wade. He was the lead prosecutor and also happened to be her boyfriend. Not so flash. You can't really go and do that kind of thing. At any rate, the state governor has now signed a bill, Senate Bill 244, which was passed by the state legislature, and that would require the state's taxpayers to be reimbursed, or to reimburse defendants in cases where the prosecutor has been disqualified. Now, why would the prosecutor be disqualified? Well, not for doing a good job, let's put it that way. Stephen Sadro, the attorney who represented Trump in the case, spoke to Forbes and said that the governor signing the legislation represented a major turning point in holding unethical, opportunistic, and deceitful prosecutors accountable for their misconduct. We are living in that same world here in Australia, folks. Although, if you follow Rocco Vardy and Michael Schultz was in court recently, Mona was there and a few others, and they're talking that up as a bit of a win at the moment. I haven't found out the full details of the whole thing. I do know the judge ran out of the court. Now, she probably walked. He probably walked, whatever it was. However, let's see how far this goes further down the track. I'm sure they won't leave it alone. They might have won the battle today, but have they won the war? That is the question that I'm very interested in finding out. And that is a question we will explore, or Tim will explore tomorrow night in his Zoom meeting. If you want to register for that, to find out more, then you can do that by going sending an email to tim@ourtrueaustralia.com. Now, he's had to up the room again, the room size again. I think it's up to 1,000 now. So there is a lot of you, or there are a lot of you, who are very interested in what Tim will be putting forward tomorrow night. Now, this is a portion of a solution, as far as I can see. I haven't seen or heard everything that Tim's offering, but I know a fair bit about what has been on offer in the past. Does he have all the solutions? No, I don't think he does, but neither does Tim. All right? But we have to have a starting point, don't we? A starting point with someone who's put decades of research into what they believe, and tomorrow night we'll present that to you and the evidence to back up those beliefs. If you want to be part of it, send Tim the email, tim@ourtrueaustralia.com, and if there are spots left, you'll still be able to get in on that, I'm sure. And this isn't going to be something you'll be partaking in, you'll be listening to it. When you've got 1,000 people in a Zoom room, you can't leave the microphones open. It just nothing will happen. Nobody will hear anything. People will want to ask questions, want to carry on, want to pull an idea down that he says at the same time. That's not what this is about. This is about him getting a free space to put forward his research, his belief, and how he can see a way forward for us. Now, whether that is the way forward remains for us to be seen. But I would encourage you, if you haven't already done so and you'd like to be a part of that, to have a bit of a look at what Tim's research has come up with and what his portion of a solution. I'm not saying he's got the whole one, as I say, but it's a portion of a solution. What we need are other people like Tim who've been working on this for years and years and years and have this unequivocal belief that they are 100% right. We need them to come to these Zooms as well. We need them to come and teach us why their knowledge is the true knowledge. And we need them to understand that when we question what they bring us, it's not because we want to tear it down. It's because we have questions. And if you haven't thought of those questions yet, well, maybe your solution isn't ready to be put forward. But we're not attacking these solutions. We are looking at them. We are analyzing these solutions with a view to finding the missing pieces of the puzzle that we need, because that puzzle has been lost to us, deliberately stolen from us for hundreds of years. It's not going to be easy to find those pieces, and there are hundreds of people out there like you who have little pieces. Now, you might hold, like any good police investigation, that tiny, tiny piece of information that you get that just cracks the nut for us all. That could be you. I really hope you join Tim tomorrow night for his chat. I'm going to be there. And not that you'll see me, I'll be one of the faces in the crowd, but and I'm certainly not speaking. Nobody will be speaking. Tim will speak. And if you have questions, then I suggest you put them in the chat. There will be moderators who will take down those questions and they will be shown back later. Tim won't have time to sit down and answer all of your questions tomorrow night. What he will do, though, is go through them all, I'm sure. And in the days that follow, he will come back with another Zoom or another pre-record where I'm sure he will go through all of those questions and provide his answers as best he can. But tomorrow night is ideal for you to learn about one of the potential processes for us to go forward, and to go forward in a very positive and meaningful manner. And that leads me into tonight's guest, because a very positive and meaningful manner is what they say the crypto world is going to do for us all. It's going to be very positive. It's going to change the way we live. It's going to make huge differences and offer unprecedented levels of security, both financially and personally. And there has been a very large announcement that was foreshadowed by my next guest. You might know him as a Galactic Larrikin. I know him as a lawnmower from down south. G'day, Mark. How are you, buddy?
Good, mate. Yourself? Great to see you.
Mate, I'm pretty excited to hear this this little bit of news that has been brought to me today, courtesy of Ainsley Bullion. Now, I'm just going to share this with the folks, because it is a very interesting little article. Ripple just made its boldest move yet, it says, acquiring Hidden Road and officially opening a new office in Dubai. They already have an office in Abu Dhabi, I found out. Now, this isn't just expansion. It's a strategic play to anchor Ripple at the heart of the Middle East's booming financial sector, with this acquisition and full regulatory approval in the UAE, and that is not easy to get. That's now in hand. Ripple is set to scale its operations at unprecedented levels and potentially reshape the global finance in the process. Now, Mark, you were referring to this when we spoke just a couple of weeks ago, saying that there was something pretty big coming up in the Ripple world. Now, I've only read the first paragraph and I'm lost. Can you explain to me what that is alluding to, what this means?
I guess it could be, some people argue a few different things, but my main argument for this would be you're starting to look into tokenized oil, probably petrodollar 2.0. And then, but will be all facilitated blockchain, accounted for on the blockchain with using most likely RLUSD, or probably go to an RLSAE for Saudi Arabian stablecoin. They could possibly bring out something like that. At the current point in time, RLUSD would fit the bill perfectly. They could use something like that to start using through their exchanges and things like that for oil.
This Hidden Road seems to be a very big entity in a behind the scenes area of money movement. Is that right?
Yeah. They've popped up and they're moving over $3 trillion annually in US dollars. So they're moving an immense amount of money. I think that article says that things are like scaling up to 6 trillion a day in certain areas and things like that. So they've joined. I mean, that article also says something to do with FTX, which doesn't have much to do with anything. They went down, or I wouldn't be trusting them. I guess they're not doing much. Maybe that was with the launch or something. But
yeah, it says here, backed by top tier investors like Citadel Securities, Coinbase Ventures, and FTX Ventures. The firm specializes in clearing, financing, and margin for institutional clients. And this is the bit that gets me, especially those looking to trade digital assets without directly holding them.
Yeah. So this is when we get into ETFs and things like that. So now there's 17 companies have applied to have an ETF formed for the XRP. So now you're going to be able to have institutional buyers and things like that coming in, with pension funds, retirement funds being able to buy and hold legally, and do it in a way where the customers don't have straight exposure to the asset. So it'll be all locked up for them, and security in a way that they don't have to worry about what's going on, just like their super is now, I would assume. But this deal is really, it's going to drive XRP price, mainly because of the amount of money that's being put through the blockchain now. Every time they'll be using RLUSD or whatever, most likely whatever stable coin, or however they work out to tokenize oil or tokenize whatever it is that UAE wants to do. But what does the UAE do? They sell oil. So I would assume that they're going to tokenize oil and just like just like countries are going to tokenize gold. I'd assume this will be petrodollar 2.0, where we see tokenized oil and running on XRP ledger. And then that would drive XRP price, because whether they do it solely with a new tokenized coin or they just use RLUSD for the international cross-border trade, every time they do that, that burns XRP, never to be seen again. So that's going to then bring in scarcity. And when you're talking about $3 trillion annually, they're talking about some markets of $6 trillion daily. If you talk about those kinds of that scaling at that kind of numbers, we're going to see XRP really driving price. This is what I think in the end of the article, it talks about Monica Long, who is the president of Ripple. She's come out and stated that basically the way she sees it, ever since this acquisition has happened, that the floodgates are going to open. That's kind of, she's come out and stated those things. So it's we're looking at this is big, and especially with Trump going over. Trump visited MBS 2 weeks before or something. Flew over to Saudi Arabia, had a visit with him.
Had an investment seminar there that actually brought in something like $600 billion to the US in a weekend.
Yeah. So then you have Ripple going over a couple of weeks later and doing a deal. It's when previously we had a month or two ago, we had Trump in a photo with Brad Garlinghouse, which is the CEO of Ripple. They were in a photo. They're at the White House. They did a deal. So it's all lining up when you look at when you're looking at the markers that we need to have. These kinds of things are the things we need to look at, I think.
So these are the markers. When you refer to a marker and the things we should be looking at, these are markers leading towards the change in the financial system that we're sort of been expecting.
Yeah. These are things that when people are probably going to say that we may have a collapse. I've always kind of debated, will we have a collapse, or are they going to build a system that can stop us basically having a proper collapse where people are losing everything, instead of where if they point you in the right direction and the people that can see that there's something coming, we start moving our money into the new system and we start help building that new system and giving it a foundation. Then when they basically bring in legislation and make everything legal and proper, so they know there's no Wild West going on where people are going to lose their money, then they can bring in the institutions, then they can bring in mum and dad and grandma and grandpa and all the money basically. And instead of having the big collapse that we can see where our fiat system can't handle what's going on, I think we might have a system where we just move over to that, and we don't have. I think it's going to be a rocky ride, but we might not have that big collapse where everybody just loses everything.
Right.
Possible.
Why is XRP doing nothing then? Peter would like to know.
One of the big things is that I've learned recently is about is these things called black pools or basically over the counter buying, where they're definitely manipulating the price on a lot of the crypto, but definitely XRP. They're doing something. I'm not sure exactly how, but the black pools is one of the big ones where, say, you've got a buyer where they want to buy $1 billion worth of XRP or a couple of $1 billion worth. If they go onto a normal exchange and just do it normally, they're going to move the price. But instead, they can go to an exchange or basically go to Ripple directly and say, I've got this much money and I want to buy Ripple, I want to buy XRP, and they'll do them an over-the-counter deal, which isn't on exchanges and doesn't affect the liquidity and all that kind of stuff, the liquidity pools on the exchanges, to then make the price fluctuate. So you've got all these people buying billions of dollars worth of XRP, and they're getting it at a discount and not moving the market, which I don't understand how that's kind of legal or whatever, how that works, but that it supposedly is. And they do it with all coins. It's not just XRP. They can do it with anything they want. So there's no argument that it's just XRP and
right.
It's because they can they do it everywhere, and from what I've learned, that's how they manipulate prices. One of the ways.
Yep.
So, but yeah, other than that, David Schwartz has said what drives price, and it is just usage basically. He said that a long time ago. The more when we see this in use, being used for what it's properly designed for, that's when we'll see real price. But we've got to wait and see how it goes, I suppose.
Well, all of this talk, blockchain, Ripple, XRP. What is XRPL?
Well, the XRPL, that's just the ledger. So XRP is the token, and the XRP is the ledger that it runs on. So it's the train tracks that everything runs on, and that's kind of that's an argument that what they're saying now with the deal with the private road is that they're setting up XRP to be the train tracks, so they can run everything on it, and you can either and basically saying to people now, you can either invest in the railroad. Would you rather own the railroad or the things that go in the cars? And I know which one I'd rather own because
true.
And that's what they're doing with LP.
People are suffering. I mean, you've got a young family, you're working 2 jobs, you're not by yourself in that. There are many people out there working very, very hard just to try and make their ends meet. Will this change make any significant difference to our living costs?
No, not until technically in the future, when we remove ourselves from the Federal Reserve fiat note system, because then they won't be able to manipulate and just print money. Inflation comes from printing. The sole driver of inflation is printing money, is government overspending, which comes from them printing money, and basically government overspending. I guess they're the only people that are allowed to print money, right? Other than, I guess, when you get a loan, they print money. That's not like when you get a loan from the bank, they don't just go to the well and pull out money from a grand well that's like a stack of cash that's still stacked up that the government has. They print more money to give that loan. So that I'm not sure exactly how that drives inflation, but definitely just the overspending of government, where they're just printing money for willy-nilly reasons, basically war usually. That's what drives inflation. So once we get out of a fiat system and we go into a checked and balanced ledger where they can't just go, oh, we've run out of money, we'll just print more, or we'll just make more Bitcoin, or there's an argument they can do that, but they definitely can't make more XRP. So they can't just make more whatever when it comes to that. Okay. And that should allow us to check and balance everything and give true market value to things. I think I don't know if we're going to see a crash in price. This is the argument that I've had with people, where when you see house prices going so high, and our government especially designs laws so house prices don't come down. I'm starting to question. I'm saying, okay, is it that house prices are going to come down, or is it that my crypto and my silver or whatever, is that just going to go so well that it comes up to inflation, past inflation, and meets the prices that we still have? Instead of it, I don't know if they're going to allow prices to come down, because people will technically say, I'm losing money, I've bought at this price, I'm now having to sell at a loss. But if the things that we invest in now just go up to meet those prices and then go past it, that could at least help investment-wise if you haven't lost your money in the things that you've invested in. And then when the system changes, that could slow inflation when it comes to not being able to overprint money. And that could go where we tokenize gold, because you could have, I think they're going to have countries tokenize gold and have a sovereign coin that's backed by gold. And you can have that tokenized on a blockchain. So the gold's accounted for, and every dollar or every stable coin that would be attached to the gold would be all accounted for too. So you could have it that way, where they bring in the gold ratio, or gold to dollar ratio again, and somehow figure out a gold-backed sovereign coin kind of thing that way.
Yeah.
That's the only way that they'll back any of the cryptocurrencies with gold. They won't back the cryptocurrencies themselves with gold. It will just be tokenized gold on a blockchain.
Yeah. Okay. So people who hold gold and silver as an asset, will they be able to tokenize that in their, like, you know, in
I
their
assume
house?
so. Yeah, I assume so. I think we're a long way away from needing to when it comes to a personal way. Like personally, I don't hold enough that I need to tokenize it. That's for sure. I'm just hoping
Yeah,
that it
no,
goes
me either.
where it goes to a price that I could just go and sell it for profit or something like that in the future. And I'll probably sell it into XRP. Which I wish I did a while ago. I tell you what, I would have made so much more money. But
as long as you remember your passwords and your wallet doesn't close you out of it and all these other bits and pieces, which for mine is the biggest problem I have with the whole thing. I mean, well, actually, in fact, I've got two big problems with it. So explain to me, let's say the world goes completely mad and there is a nuclear war, and instead of using devices that level cities, they use EMPs. What happens to the blockchain? What happens to all of my crypto if an EMP goes off?
I guess all electronic things are dead. That's how it works, right? So we won't have much power other than anything you can maybe fire up some. I don't know if the coal stations work with no power. Do they work when there's absolutely nothing?
Well, I guess if you put coal into them again, they will.
They generate it, right? So I guess they could.
Yeah, sunlight and air don't work too well in a coal-fired power station, I've got to admit. But
I don't know. Don't they have to go? How's an EMP work? What's it fry? What's the thing it actually fries? So you'd have to go around and place all the things.
It fries electronic circuits. It fries all electronic circuits. So unless those circuits are in a hardened facility, and you've got to think if there was going to be an attack on the global markets and the global market is crypto, then the people who would be attacking would know these hardened facilities and how hard they would have to hit them. I mean, America could just drop a Moab.
Yeah.
The Russians could just fire one of their hypersonic missiles.
This could be the argument for tokenized gold, where even though the gold is tokenized and you can't access the blockchain to maybe see who owns what, at least the gold's still there, right? When the EMP goes off. So you've still got a starting point. But technically, the argument that is always sold to me when they say the EMP goes off or nuclear war is that we're going to be in a much worse place than worrying about where our cryptocurrency is to trade and stuff.
Well, except if you've got to buy what food is available with what money you have available. Yeah. And if that happens to be locked up in a crypto account, you're stuffed.
Yeah. Well, but everyone would be stuffed if it went to the system where.
No, I've got a few silver coins. You've got a few silver coins.
I'm more talking. Let's fast forward so the system's fully integrated, and we have cryptocurrency. Maybe hopefully they still have some kind of cash. I'm surely they can't get rid of just. Like, because is it constitutional that we're supposed to have cash of some kind of?
It's all the banks are meant to stay open too, and there's meant to be a bank in every other town and all that kind of crap. But nobody's paying any attention. I mean, let's be honest. We've got a frigging government that was supposedly elected less than 30 days ago who doesn't plan to sit for another 60 to 65 days. That makes it an illegitimate government. Wow. Do you see the people actually waking up and figuring that out?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I had no idea. You just taught me something, Carl. I had no idea that I was doing that. That's insane.
Yeah, 100% illegitimate government. If the new government does not sit within 30 days of being elected, they can't come in 2 months later and say, "Oh, hello, we're the government." And it is just yet another example of the fraud that's being perpetrated against the people and the belligerent occupiers, the UN occupiers of that place in Canberra, the ones that rule over us. It's driving me mad that people will not wake up to the fact, and they are being so blatantly obvious about it. And this is what worries me with the future of crypto and Australians. We're an apathetic mob, mate. I just want to be able to reach into my wallet, pull out my card or pull out my cash, pay for whatever I want, make sure that the bloody person who I'm paying the money to says please and thank you and leave. It's going to get a lot. It's going to get a lot more difficult.
Yeah, it will. Though with XRP, technically it'll run as smoothly or smoother than your bank card does today because it runs in the background and it's the train tracks. If you're using Australian coin, whatever it is, where you are, it does it all in 3 seconds tops. It just goes bang, 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 changes it from one to another. That's the interoperability line that they have in that article. It's interoperable with everything, meaning it can change one to another as fast as you can blink, and it's smooth, it's scalable. So they know that it can handle all the mass payments. So when it's properly integrated, it will be smooth. It's just, will we ever get to a point where we have it's the doomsday things, like you say, where those things are fair arguments. I don't understand. I don't know what we do when the nuclear bomb goes off, when they drop an EMP and we have everything electronic doesn't work. That's a good question. I don't know what we would do, but I don't think.
Well, we don't even need an EMP, mate. We need a dickhead driver crashing through a power pole, taking out a transformer in a town. The whole town loses power.
Though it would, and that's why I think hopefully constitutionally they can't just take cash off us in some way, and we have some way to link cash to a cryptocurrency ledger. I don't know how they do that, but it would. When they got to count the cash somewhere, right? Maybe they do a thing where they count the cash and it's figured out on a ledger. I'm not sure how that would work or if it's possible, but there's got to be some. Yeah, I'm not just a whole cryptocurrency maxi where I'm just like, let's just sign up to everything electronic and give everything, all our information away to somebody that we don't know. I'm 100%. Let's hold some silver. Let's keep cash in our society and use it as much as we can to not lose it. But legally, I guess, like you said, I think it's constitutionally legal that we have some kind of note that we can trade with, or some kind of sovereign something that we can trade with, hand to hand, and can hold it. Other than that, we're definitely, it's not just going to, because unfortunately we're just Australia and we're just this little country. We're not going to be the drivers of what happens. It's going to be the rest of the world who's going to drive what goes on, and we're going to adopt it. So we either kind of get on board or you lose out in one way. Though we do have to fight for our sovereignty in our constitution, in our Commonwealth constitution, and make sure that we have the proper legal ways to trade with each other in the future, rather than just signing away. Because I'm still very aware that they can program a lot of things and program our money, or they will be able to program it if they wanted to, and take it away from you. So it's
and that's the biggest concern I think that we all have about a centrally controlled digital currency. It means that whoever has the keys to the crypto vault can lock you out of it, regardless of whether you remember your 15 different passwords and you got to hold your mouth the right way and make sure your phone's tilted at the right angle so your wallet opens. I think there is a lot of things that worry me about that whole thing. It's
scary. Real CBDCs are that they can turn it all off. Though XRP, XLM, they're not CBDCs. They are decentralized currencies that we could all get a node, and that's where we have when you have to have, what's it called? It's another C word. I lose all the words. You have to have everybody has to agree on the blockchain that this transaction's legitimate, this transaction's legitimate, this transaction's legitimate. Consensus. There's the C word. We have to have consensus on the blockchain which makes it decentralized. That's where the decentralization comes in, where people were arguing that XRP isn't. Definitely is. We can all open up a node and play our part in saying, yes, that's a legitimate transaction. Yes, that's a legitimate transaction. by the you'd have to learn a little bit about computing and how it all works to understand what's going on, but that's how it works. That's so we won't have a centralized body that can just lock you out of all this stuff in the future. The sovereign coins could, depending on how they set it up with certain banks, you could end up, if you maybe didn't read the fine print on some of the banks, they might have their own coins that they could lock you out of. But there'll be definitely a whole lot out there that, like, there's going to be, this crypto market's really scary at the moment, and it's probably like thousands of coins. In the future, I reckon we're going to come down to like 40 or 50 coins, where it's just, these are the ones that work, these are the ones that are legitimate and the ones to use. But there'll be more than enough option for the people out there to be like, okay, like for me, one of my plans is to hold as little Australia coin as I can. I'll only hold that when they say, the government says you've got to pay tax or something like that, or I have to use it in society. And and other than that, I'm going to be pretty much trying to hold XRP or one of the utility coins, because there's going to be opportunity to use that coin to make more of that coin. I'm going to be able to rent it or lease it or put it into a liquidity pool where other people are using it, and then I get a little kickback off that. If I'm at the point where I don't need to pull the money out, I'm going to...
Hang on a minute. You're describing the current banking system where we deposit our money, the bank then makes up money, keeps our money, makes money up, gives it to us back in the form of a loan, which we have to repay again. You're essentially saying the same thing with crypto.
Yep. That's exactly what they're trying to do with it all. They're creating a whole new system that technically can't be manipulated or derivatized to the hell where nothing's worth anything anymore because there's a million copies of everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, I can follow that part. What do you say to, well, actually, I want to go back to the question that I put up there before, Ethereum. Now, I've heard of the Ethereum blockchain. I mean, there are so many different things that I've heard. And in fact, increasingly at the moment on my social medias, I keep getting these reels of just absolute shit. But they're to do with a payment, like somebody comes to do a service. I'm going to wash your car or whatever. And the payment system is by these obscure names I've never heard from. Obviously, they're American kind of systems or in place. But these are crypto payments. And they're plugging now, obviously through social media, as crypto payment through Z or through something else, or is, whatever the thing is called, okay to use. And the guy says, oh, yeah. And I gather that means you've got to have a wallet of the same kind that the person who wants to pay you has. Is that how that works?
Well, the sound of it. So do you know what ledger that's running on? Is that running on Ethereum, or is it?
No, Ethereum. Two questions I've conjoined. I apologize. So no, I don't know who it's running on, what it's running on, but if I open up my Facebook, I'm guaranteed to go and get another 20 of those freaking ads. All I see is ads on Facebook. Yeah,
I'd be very wary of all that. That's very scammy. It's very you'll see ads for people saying send us yours and we'll send you double back. Definitely ignore those ones. That one's payment ones is interesting because payment is technically, you're going to be, unless it's XRP or XLM, it's not going to be as good as XRP or XLM. There's definitely going to be a million other payment coins out there that come out and say, we can do this, we're going to do this. It's just, does it work? And how much does it cost you to send $10 to somebody? How fast does it get there? And how easy was it for you to do it? I guess that's some of the ones. The main things is how much does it cost and does it get there? How long does it take? But that's where XRP is. It's cost you less than a cent, and it gets there in 3 seconds. And XLM is a clone, so it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
These ones, that sounds. I'm not across that one. The Ethereum blockchain. I guess your first question is. Everyone be very wary of Ethereum. That's what I would say to most people. It's been in the market for a long time, and it's yes, it's appreciated, but it appreciated through a thing. If people want to look up a thing called Eastgate, just like all the gates, it's Eastgate, and it was kind of given a free pass by the SEC. Gary Gensler, who was the chair or the head of the SEC at the time, him and a couple of his cronies kind of gave it a bit of a free pass along with Bitcoin, and went after XRP, and that was when they sued XRP and made Ripple fight for 4 years in a $200 million lawsuit, which they won, which I now think is probably one of the best thing that's ever happened to them, because they're now the only cryptocurrency on the planet that has legal clarification for what it is. It's the only one that's gone through a $200 million lawsuit and won, and because it is what it is.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so the ETH it was given a free pass, and I think you're going to see basically it's going to slow down with development. It's not as good, and it's not as efficient, not as fast, efficient, or easy to work on as the XRP ledger, technically the XLM ledger as well. The XRP, from all the people all the engineers out there who are now figuring out that XRP, it does what everything else does, what Ethereum does, it does it all. We can work on it. They're all now going over to it and going, this is better. It's faster, it's cheaper.
How do you see, or do you see all of this working towards Stellar being the core of the system?
No, I don't see Stellar as the core. No, I see XRP will be the core.
Okay.
XRP will be the core of payment and tokenized rails. It'll be the train tracks for everything. I think they're going to slightly do different markets. So you could probably just say that you don't have to compare them in a way, I think. But XRP is, like you now see, it's in Saudi Arabia, it's in Japan, it's owned by the US. So it's got the biggest markets and the most money coming through it. BRICS, I think, is probably possibly more involved with XLM, which will drive that, and it'll do somewhat the same kind of job, but it's not. I don't think it's going to handle the volume that XRP will. I think that's where XRP will be the core, or the biggest, the most expensive coin, because it's just going to have more going on. Where XLM it's just a clone of XRP, so it's any argument that XLM can do what XRP can't is a false argument, because it's all based on XRP. And anything they've written onto the XLM ledger now, if it was needed and if it was suitable, the developers could just write it straight into the XRP ledger now, and off it runs, and it's therefore just as good as XLM. So I think the difference in them is just going to be what markets they're serving. And there's 100% room for both of them in the world. Don't get me wrong. Anybody investing in XLM, you're going to make money. 100%, you're definitely going to make money. It's just XRP. Don't just count out XRP either. It's already showing, chart wise, when you look at the charts themselves, the actual price charts, that XLM in the last run when Trump got elected, I think it moved probably 600%, which is enormous, insane amount in very short time. XRP did about 500 and something, a little bit less. But then when the market settled down, XLM's come back down much more than what XRP has. XRP's held its price over $2. It's showing more strength in the market. So at least the market thinks that there's more strength in XRP than it does in XLM. It let XLM come down further. Yep. And XLM follows XRP's price. When you actually watch the timing of it and how it works, XRP leads and then XRP follows. XRP leads, XLM follows.
Yeah.
It's sort of, when you're looking at the market strength that way, that's an indicator that, XRP's got more going on. There's more belief in the world, in the people that are investing in it, that it's got more going on. But the 100% XLM's definitely going to be there. I think it's just going to be more tokenization, and it can tokenize everything at once, but XRP can also do that. Plus, it's going to do cross-border payments for all countries and all the banks.
Yeah.
So it's got that volume of money that's just going to be trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars a day just going across and doing its thing. And this is the evidence. These are the things we're seeing. Like Japan, I've got an article. Give me a sec. I think it's 80. It says 80 something percent. What is it? 80. Where are we? It was 80%. Yeah, 80% of Japanese banks are set to embrace for global payments by 2025.
Right.
So they've
okay.
the Japanese, which is Japan's a really interesting case for XRP, because they've been used as the world's go-to for free money for the last 10 years or 20 years.
Yeah, okay.
They've had 0% loans.
Yeah.
And the whole world's just been going over getting loans from Japan, and that's destroyed their economy. They were crashing. They had a big crash, and all the crazy stuff going on a couple of months ago. And that's why I think the XRP's come in, or Ripple's gone in, and there's a really big investment firm in Japan that is famous for, they've been touting it for years now. There's one of the CEOs has been saying Ripple XRP is going to do big things, and from what I've seen, they've invested heavily in it, like trillions, like a lot of money. They've invested heavily in it, and it's now paying off for them. And that's most likely one of the reasons why they've gone through the back door, and are now 80% of Japanese banks will be set to use XRP Ledger to process payments because of the interoperability. That's where we can put in anything we want on this side, 3 seconds, 1 cent on the outside, and that's for any size payment. So there's already people out there using, like companies and stuff, using XRPL, where they say, if yesterday we sent $50 billion and it cost 1 cent or less than 1 cent, and it was there in 3 seconds, sorry, all the numbers get mixed up. And it was there in 3 seconds, where then they say it used to cost us $50,000 and it'd take days to get there.
Yeah. Take a week, 7 days.
Yeah. So if you look at companies saving $50,000 just for a payment to 1 cent, that's got legs.
Yep, I would agree. Mate, thank you for coming in tonight and having a bit of a chat about this. I couldn't get Vince on tonight because he was involved in another meeting earlier. He's just popped into the chat now, though, so hello, buddy. But this is something that I don't claim to have a great deal of knowledge about in any way, shape, or form, and I am trying to increase my understanding of it through various different ways, and you're one of them. So thank you very much for coming on and giving us a hand tonight, mate. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate. Anytime. Good. Thanks for having me.
You've probably got a nappy you've got to go and change, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, I can hear him through the door.
So can I. See you, mate. He's got a beautiful little boy who has a pretty good set of lungs by the look of him. So thanks, Mark, for popping in and bringing us up to speed with that. I have a lot of people trying to help me understand crypto. I have people from QSI, God love them, who are just the most patient people in the world as I try and wrap my head around everything. And because I have one of those heads that's very suspicious, I tend to go a bit slower than others, I guess. People like Mark and other Galactic Larrikin, Rob, who is also a big crypto head, and of course Vince. I think Vince has done more than probably just about anybody to try and help me understand crypto. And I'm a bit like Michelle, who had to bail out of the chat. There are times where my head just spins too. I simply do not comprehend a lot of what is being said. And for those of you who are in the same bucket as me, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep doing this until I start comprehending it. And I hope you do too, because regardless of our feelings on it, it's going to happen. So we can be Luddites and say, the good old days. Or we can start sensibly looking into this, not risking our entire futures. You know, nobody says you've got to go and pour your life savings into crypto. just yet. I would suggest you put a bit of it into gold and silver, thanks to Ainsley Bullion, but I'm not one to tell you to go and plug your life savings into crypto. I do know people who will tell you to put as much of it into there as you can, because that is where the big increases are going to come in the crypto market. Now, I don't doubt that this is going to happen. I have no idea on time frame, but through the chats with Jane and Emily at QSI, through the chats with Mark and Vince and others offline, including people who are very, very deeply into and have been into things like Bitcoin mining and coin creation, and who are not in the QSI family. These people are my knowledge base, and God love them. Fair dinkum, they must get so frustrated with me. You could beat this information into me with a sledgehammer easier. So thank you to all of those people who I lean on heavily when it comes to talking about crypto, because I simply do not understand how it all works. Whether that is I have a problem with numbers, or I perceive this is a form of mathematics or something that my brain just fizzles with, I don't know. But I'm determined to not be that Luddite. And I would hope that if you're feeling as embarrassed about your lack of knowledge of crypto as I am, that you'll join me in that journey when we occasionally get people on like Mark, and we'll bring back the QSI girls and others to have a chat, because I am interested in hearing it all. Now, there is plenty of fraud available in just about every aspect of our lives. And yes, I'm sure there is fraud going on in the crypto world. Do we need to accuse everybody of it? Probably not. And certainly accusing people without proof doesn't go a long way with me. I've been sticking my hand up asking for proof of all sorts of accusations that have been laid out against QSI for I don't know how long, and all I get is people sending me other people's articles saying, oh, but it looks like, oh, it seems like, or it appears to be. That's not proof. That's not proof at all. That's what you are reading is an opinion piece, and you're sending it to me as evidence. That's like sending my show to somebody and saying, oh, look at Carl's evidence that the world is corrupt. You'll be laughed at. And trust me, I do laugh at some of the evidence that's sent to me here. God love you. Thank you for sending it. But it's not really evidence. All it is opinion that seems to back up your particular bias. And I'm not saying the bias is bad or good or whatever, but you lean towards one way, you pull those articles from that sort of direction. I don't do that. I tend to go, and if I feel I'm leaning towards a subject, I'll go the other way and try and convince myself of it more deeply by reading, consuming, and understanding as much of it as possible. And usually I'm a pretty quick learner, but when it comes to crypto, folks, I am just a Luddite. Then I apologize for it. I have a couple of little things that I want to close up with tonight. There has been a new military commercial put out in the US. The US, along with Australia and many other countries in the world, are struggling at the moment to get people to enlist in their armed forces. Now, you might remember America led the world in shit military, I think is the best way to describe it. From leadership down, they were able to instill a woke mentality into the US Defense Forces, and it became very dangerous. Donald Trump, one of the platforms that he ran on was to bring America's military back to strength. Now, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but here's what he's done to promote it.
No more distractions. No more electric tanks. No more gender confusion. No more climate change worship. We are laser focused on our mission of warfighting.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength.
You look into the eyes of these young Americans who are giving up the best years of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible.
Through our power and might, we will lead the world to peace. Our friends will respect us. Our enemies will fear us. and the whole world will admire the unrivaled greatness of the United States military. We will replenish the pride of our armed forces, end the recruitment crisis.
We don't fight because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us.
God bless you. God bless our armed forces. God bless our men and women serving overseas. And God bless the United States of America.
Got to say, pretty impressive. We, on the other hand, have this bunch of twats leading our country and couldn't put together anything that exciting or inspiring if their lives depended on it. And at the moment, I think they probably do. These three people in particular need to see a gallows. And that just about ends it for me tonight. I thought before I disappear off, I might do a Where Are They Now segment. I've been getting a few Where Are They Now pictures sent to me recently, and some of them have been quite funny. So I thought, well, I might drop one up to you tonight with a little Where Are They Now, and I'll let you think about that as we head out and think about those dickhead drivers that we're out there avoiding every day. Where are these guys now? Couldn't resist. Sorry. Seems like not all the dickheads are on the roads.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!